Welcome back to Grassroots Footy, brought to us by West End. I'm joined by Gary McIntosh, of course, the host, and Jamie Thomas, coach of the state team this weekend, Amy Stadium at 5:15. Big game for them. Let's talk a little bit about how you go about selecting the teams. Of course, you've got to get across all teams from Divi 1 right through. How time consuming is that for you?
I have 6 selectors that go to different games. They generally go to 2 games on a weekend. I'll go watch the first half of maybe a Div 1 game, and they'll go and watch a Div 2 game. And they'll do a report. I'll give them several players that I want them to watch and find out how they're going, make sure they're informed. We get together every Wednesday night, have a meeting, we go through all the list, and we're in the process at the moment. We've got our list for the state country game. We announce a list for the carnival the second week after Easter. So I'm very lucky. I've got some really good support guys that prepared, and they all voluntary. They just go to 2 games a week and do a report, and we just put a squad together from that.
Sorry, Phil. Big Curry, that's the big fella from Gazer.
Yep, Michael Kerr.
Yes, he's a very good ruckman. Seen him play. He's going to be a pretty key player in that group.
Oh, certainly. He not only being a great player, he's a great leader. He actually captained the state side last year. So it's good to have a big bloke like that around the contest to not only give your first use of the ball, but to support the guys. And as you know, you can be a really good player and have no voice, which takes the edge off you. But he has that edge where he's always encouraging, always pushing the players to be better and better.
Jamie, you touched on it then, first use of the footy. You listen to the AFL coaches, that's the first thing that nearly comes out of their mouth, why they won or why they lost. Either they got to the ball first or they didn't. For you, got some quicks to get first use of the ball?
Oh, certainly. As I mentioned before, Brad Robinson, Toasty Clay, Stephen Clay from Port Districts, Blake Wagner from Gazer. So all the guys that we've picked are generally in good form. So going on the state country side in the last 2 years, we've sort of gone about picking a side that we know they're going to have trouble keeping up with us.
All right, the other interesting one, of course, is one thing is getting the footy, but when you haven't got the footy, have you got the same enthusiasm to get back and play some defence? You think the guys are switched onto that? Well,
generally, if they haven't got those skills, they don't get picked. So most of the guys you generally find most of the guys that play state footy have played at some level at SAAFL clubs. Michael Kerr at Central Districts, Brad Robinson, Port Adelaide, Nick Jolly, I think, was at Nord for a little while. Matt, was he? Or?
He went out with the juniors there for a couple of sessions.
So most of the guys that play at this high level at state footy have that SAAFL background, so they generally have it inbuilt in them.
All right, let's ask both of you this question. I'll go with you first. So, Jamie, the toughest thing you've found in coaching at amateur footy level?
Commitment. Getting the blokes to commit. When I was coaching Div 1, I used to make them train 3 nights a week, and then if we had a bad game, I'd make them train Sundays. And that's the hardest bit. For me, and I'm like Mac, we just love the game. If our coach has said to us, you've got to train 7 days a week, well, we just do it.
Yep.
Because that's what we like doing. Where a lot of guys generally have other interests in life. So, giving a full commitment is the hardest thing to get out of the players.
Mac, same for you?
Look, work commitments really plays a big part in the amateur league on players. But I think the other part of it too is the volunteer staff you have. Like at the SAAFL level and AFL level, you've got plenty of people, but at the amateur level, the volunteer staff becomes so important at your club, and we would love a lot more of them. The ones that are there, they do a great job.
They're the diamonds, aren't they? Yep. You touched on it, the commitment. How long did it take you to adjust your coaching to working out the balance? Because if you push it too hard, you could lose the players, and it's always hard to get those players to stay within the club.
Well, I was lucky. I started coaching when I was 26, and still playing and being a playing coach. A lot of the players would just follow. Obviously, I used to play centre, or I suppose the beauty of coaching is if you're struggling at centre half back, you just go to centre half back or centre half forward or in the centre. So I used to get the players just to commit for me because I would give that commitment. And look, I coached from 1989, when did I retire? 1989 through to now. I've pretty well coached every year, and for the first 10 years, I coached up in Darwin and back in Adelaide. So I was coaching 2 seasons in a year. So I was pretty fast tracked pretty quickly.
Coaching up in Darwin?
Yes.
Different to coaching here in the amateur footy?
Totally different.
In which way?
Very relaxed up there, very relaxed lifestyle, very relaxed. The players generally just go up there for a holiday. So we had players from Western Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, all go up there just for a bit of a holiday and play a bit of footy at the same time. So, and getting guys from all different parts of Australia to play week in, week out together and not really knowing each other was a hard effort. We're back here, most clubs, you have generally 10 or 12 guys that have grown up at that club, and you have that core base. Up there you don't have that.
All right, coached up in Darwin. Of course, you mentioned before you coached in Wagga, so you've been in Sydney, and of course you've been in Adelaide. Different again, coaching in Wagga?
That was my first coaching gig. I was straight from Centrals into coaching, and as I said, I was still very, very fit and still a quality player. So I went there and just led from the front. And it was only a very, very small town, so I was very lucky. I had some good people on the side as well, which is very important. When you're playing coaching, it's very important that you have good support from the side. Then when I stopped playing when I was 41, I think it was, you generally take over that sort of role yourself.
Macca, for you, going from Norwood to coaching in the amateur league, how much adjustment for you?
Well, we changed our whole training patterns. Our training was all around just ball based. We went away from any of that long running. Running without balls was non-existent.
Exactly.
We trained with the footies, and I think that kept the appeal to the players to keep going.
Yeah, that's the hardest part by the sound of it, is to keep that enthusiasm up. So what part of your coaching philosophy has to be is to make it enjoyable for the players, and if that component starts to miss, then a lot of the players you risk not staying in the club.
Yes, all our training is ball work. We do a bit of sprint work, but all the 3-4k time trials, they're gone. You don't have those anymore. So.
Well, it's a chance for me to play amateur footy then, I can see that. Well, it's time to move on now. Of course, we've got to take a look at Footy Chicks, Footy Trips. Lisa Wright takes us down to Mawson Lakes, and this is what she found out.
Hi gang, and welcome to the Footy Chicks Footy Trip Round 2. We're at Technology Park tonight, visiting the home of the Mawson Lakes Football Club. And for those playing at home that are probably new to the show, who the hell are Mawson Lakes, do you say? Well, for those that don't know, they are the old St Paul's Old Scholars Football Club. They've decided to pack up to bigger and better things and move out here to Mawson Lakes, the most livable address in Adelaide. And they also call it Mozzie Lakes as well, and I know why, because if you can see these little suckers flying around, they are everywhere. So they told me to come prepared with the Aerogard and with the mosquito net hat. Let's go and have a chat to the fellas. Let's go.
We moved here 3 years ago, decided 2 years ago to change the name to Mawson Lakes, since try to build a community spirit around here, and the school wasn't really providing too much to us. So yeah, changed to Mawson Lakes just for sponsorship and just to be not a college side, which people regard you as when you got college on the end of it.
We made some big inroads in the off-season to try and rectify obviously what happened with us last year, and we've got off to a good start, 3-0, can't ask for much more than that, so we'll just see what happens, 1 week at a time, as they say.
The community itself is still building a lot, so probably this year is more noticeable for us that the community's a lot more involved. We've had probably about 30 guys coming off the street, picked up probably another 20, 30 from other clubs and people who know mates of mates. So yeah, just not being associated with the schools helped us out a lot.
Yeah, we started in February, something a little bit different to most clubs. We left it a bit late for numerous reasons. One of the reasons was last year's fade out, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but we started the year 8-0 and we didn't end up making the finals, which was pretty embarrassing. We're hurting a lot out of that, and we're trying to rectify that this year. But one of the reasons was to try and curb some of the injuries we had last year. We thought starting a bit later, we'll try and build up our fitness and hopefully come home with a bit of a wet sail.
C grade first time this year, so we made the decision back in mid-February. We started training a bit later this year, started early February, and had about 60 to 70 turn up the first 4 nights of training each night, so about 120 registered players now. So yeah, it made sense to have a C grade.
Because we started so early last year, complacency sort of kicked in. Guys lost a bit of interest as it got through halfway through the year. So by starting that late again in February, we thought, maybe that'll keep the enthusiasm up, being that only shorter period of time.
Next step off field is one of our main aims is just to get a bit more financial. We're not really that financial at times. We don't pay players. We don't charge much. A, to get financially strong. B, probably a couple of years' time, look for juniors in the area. So we know there's a few juniors, but trying to start a junior club is a big thing when you've only just launched into a C grade off a whim. So, and yeah, that's probably the two main aims at the moment, and eventually lighting, if we can sustain what we've got at the moment in terms of players getting more lighting.
Been lucky enough that we've managed to recruit a couple of ex-Div 1 players that have come down through friends of mine or through friends of friends or live locally in the area. Mark Polkinghorn, who's come across from Jeps Cross, and Brenton Reedy, who most people might know from Goodwood Saints, played in 4 of their 5 premierships, came across this year, and the knowledge they've been able to give our younger fellas has been fantastic.
The Moose and Griffin, tell us about that.
That was decided by the committee, I think it was early last year. Obviously myself being Moose, and Griffin is another past player, Brenton Griffin.
Who has played over 300 games?
He's played over 300 games as well, so the two of us have played over 300 games and been here since the start back in 1993, so we're the only two who are actually still going, involved at the club in some way over that whole time. So it's a nice gesture by the club to do that for us.
Top 3, yeah, it's really hard. I'd Sacred Heart are a quality club and quality opposition. You can only see by their first 3 games they've won with ease. So I dare say they're going to be right up there. Hopefully we're up there. Mitchell Park definitely showed on the weekend. I think they're going to be playing finals action. Angle Vale, we played them the week before Mitchell Park. Probably lack a bit of fitness, but I think that'll come during the year. And they won on the weekend by 150 points. So I tend to see those 3. Tea Tree Gully are always good. But those C-grade sides, you just don't know what you're going to get with them. Sometimes they're going to be really, really good. Sometimes they're not going to be as good. So I dare say they're probably the main ones. And North Pines are creeping along nicely as well, I think.
Harry Nichols, play B grade, captain, and play on the ball.
Michael Hassett, B grade, wing.
Lachlan Kennett, A grade, vice captain and midfield.
Once I get my iPod working, I usually listen to a bit of music and just do my own thing usually.
Anyone in particular?
No one you've heard.
Rightio.
Probably something by Ferro Monch, I'd say.
Don't have one.
You don't listen to music?
Not a big fan.
Not a big fan of music. Don't care for it.
No.
Probably Brucey. Plays A grade, blonde.
What's his full name?
Nathan Bruce Gordon. He's got 3 first names, so I don't trust him.
Bruno Rocca,
I was waiting for someone to
cousin
say that.
of Severio and Anthony, but nowhere near as good.
Probably Mark Chilvers.
He's probably Jeff Riddle, the coach.
Anyone of the RAF boys.
Definitely Glenn Mackey, who's one of the RAF boys.
Mozzies.
Probably the same still.
Probably still the Saints.
We've got 3 of the blokes from the Mawson Lakes Football Club here who are going to have a crack at a Dacos-style goal or maybe a great big punt goal. The rest of the boys are going to vote by cheering who's got the best goal, and the winner will grab this slab of West End beer, and thanks to the sponsor for providing that. Guys, very quickly, rattle off your names.
Robert, Simon, Chewy.
No worries, let's get to it. Beautiful. That was 3 fair efforts there, even if one of them did take 27 takes. So, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to cheer for the winner. So, what do we all think of Simon's goal here? Yay! And Tui's goal? And finally, Rob's goal. Okay.
Which way? I kick 5.
I can't pick a winner, but we'll give the carton just to the club in general. How about that? Well done, guys. And